I go by the name of G5 like this. She got a nigga like ass fat like walk him down like pack loud like stay dangerous. Call it what you want, Ben Frank. Fuck something. Put your hands on that table, don't break, baby. Do it with no hands, she ain't even gotta touch nothing. I'm trying to make the bitch leave, but she keep coming. Chop her ass, chop it down, yeah, I'm on that. I'll walk him down, make him run that.
Welcome to the channel. Welcome back to the content. Again, my name is Lexus King. Now that we've cleared break-in on this motorcycle, some things that I said about the bike that I didn't like before are definitely a change now. But there's other things that I found that I didn't like, that those things that did get shifted to the side, now we got to be able to live with it enough to find certain things that I really definitively would like to be changed. First thing, the biggest thing actually, is going to be fuel consumption versus the actual tank capacity. Now, it says it's a 3.7 gallon tank as far as information goes that I've been able to find and look up and research. 3.7 gallon tank sounds great. It doesn't sound too bad from the 4.2s, 4.3s, 4.5s of the bigger liter bike counterparts. The thing about this, though, that you find out is the fuel gauge and your fuel range that show up on the dashboard versus what you actually fill into the tank. So when this thing goes low, light starts flashing, you get the fuel light, you're only going to fill up 2.1 gallons in here. Now, does that mean that the gas gauge is inaccurate or just the assumption of consumption is different? Does that leave 1.5 in reserve? One day we'll have to test that out. No time soon, but one day I'm going to test that out. Yeah, it's just a little small annoying thought, but that was just one thing. And I really got to think, because there's not too many things that I don't like about this bike. I actually really do enjoy this bike. I'm going to have to bring it up. The dead spot. I don't like that dead spot. The dead spot is just really annoying. It's kind of outrageously annoying. In the back roads, when you're riding around the back roads, this bike, although it has a very short rev range, it seems to be in gear longer than you'd anticipate. And the thing about that in the back roads is you're going to be using second gear mostly. And unless you are a outrageous expert back road TT rider, there's no reason to ever go to first. See, if you run first gear out, you just dip right past that dead spot and you get into the good meat of second gear. And then when you fly into third is a power gear and it just goes. So that dead range in second gear is really annoying when you're flowing through and you're in second, and then you let off and then you come into a corner and it's like, damn, where's it at? You know, and you got to grab more throttle. That's a definite thing that it does become annoying. But one thing that one of my homies did say that I let him ride, he was like, oh, I want to see this thing with sprockets on it. Well, I do have sprockets on it now. It was always my intent. It was always my plan to have sprockets on it. Cool thing about this bike, which most modern bikes are, is they do wheel speed for mile per hour because they got traction control and all the stuff. So you can add sprockets on this thing and not really fuck up the mile per hour or the mileage gained. So sprockets are on it. It's +2 in the back. This is actually the first time I rode it, even though I'm less than a half mile from my house. It does feel better, but we'll talk about that later, because we're going to go ride it in this video so that we can experience that and see the change in what the bike is and what the bike does. I've got so many sprocket options. We've got to see if I want to go up more teeth or down, you know, pretty close to stock. 44 Teeth, they put out a video that they directly did an independent comparison at a track that seemed to go only right between the V2 and the R9.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. That looks really soft on the front. So soft. Ah, full gas. Ah!
Now let's just talk a little bit of specs between the two before we get to what they're talking about in the event of them riding and they both swapped bikes and they beat the bikes and they punished the bikes and they said some specific things that I've cut out in a lot of my videos and a lot of my content because I didn't feel like adding that in yet until I got to the racetrack. But since they did a track comparison and they talked about it, I want to elaborate on that, and I want to go to what my talking points were that I've cut out and I've edited, because I didn't want to add those talking points in with me riding it on the street, because I know there's going to be somebody say, oh, well, how do you know? The street is not like the track. And they're absolutely right if they said something like that. But I didn't allow that to be said because I wanted to go get to it on the track so that I could talk about it during track conditions. Remember when I tested the V2, I said it sits upright. I went and told my homie there's cramped cockpit space. It's pretty weird, but it could work. It's very comfortable. It kind of reminds me of with the hip to the foot ratio where your leg goes is very comfortable, like a S1000, M1000. The seating position from seat over tank to bars reminded me of an R3. The height of the bars, everything was really weird, but it was spacious for cruising, not quite for track action. This bike, you've got a lot more space, and the slope of this rear seat cowl allows you more space to back it all the way up and get in tuck. This bike, I don't really have a problem tucking, and I'm a 6-foot dude, and I've got some belly on me, so I don't have a problem tucking when I slide my butt to the back and go over the tank, even if I don't slide my butt to the back. This bike just has more cockpit space. What I was going to talk about in the V2 video was that I thought that the bike is going to be more front heavy, more front dependent, and that came just simply because of how the bike feels. Feels like the R3. The R3s, I'll tell you, I do really ride the front tire. My best to scoot back and put weight and center of gravity towards the back of the bike, but I ride the front tire like crazy on the R3. This bike, my R1, my R6 is not so much. I'm more central or rear based. The V2 felt like it would be front tire dependent. Now, what they did say when they were riding the bike is it felt better in braking on turn in.
Yeah, the brake to apex on the Panigale is stronger, but I think it's just so soft, the R9.
This bike doesn't feel bad. They were just saying what feels different. The V2 feels better on the front going into corner on heavy braking. Could be two things. Could be tire and it could be suspension. I think it's suspension more than tire. You can adjust, you can change how you ride, or you can change suspension settings. But it might just off the bat be a little bit more timid to ride on the front. What this bike does very good is ride on the rear. And what did they say as they were going through the corners, blazing, ripping on this thing? They started to lose the rear. Why? Because they're putting more heat through it, because there's more energy going through the rear.
It's just drifting out of that corner. Hey? The R9 is just drifting out of that corner. That's what we can do.
V2 is 417 pounds. This bike is 430, both wet weights. The V2 puts out 70 pound-feet of torque. This bike puts out 68. The V2 puts out 120 horsepower. This bike puts out 17. If that bike is lighter, more power, arguably maybe better suspension, same brakes, they weren't on the same tire, so you can't do the apples to apples comparison. But just weight, power. Why is it with the other reviewers here in the US, when they tested Sonoma, did this bike come in mere fractions of a second behind the V2?
If the lap times that they were doing here are correct, the Suzuki was the slowest of the three bikes. 1.2 seconds slower than the other two bikes.
The R9, in comparison to these bikes, This thing is definitely more at home at a racetrack than it is the street.
The R9, yeah, that lag in the throttle application, there's a couple of turns, like you said, coming out of the the chicane there, that last turn here at this track. Should be second gear turns, but we're having to take it in first just to get the revs higher so we can drive out of them better. The Suzuki did a 152.5, I think. R9 did a 151.2. And then the quickest of the bunch was the Ducati at a 151.1. A 1/10 of a second difference.
If we're looking at the V2 being 417 pounds and this being 430, this bike is a entry-level trainer R1. The power that this thing puts down and the way it puts it down, that's the closest way that you can compare it. Definitely not an R6, but it feels like a trainer R1. 44 Teeth did make a suspension change, as you guys have seen, as I have. When I made the suspension change, it made so much more sense. It rode so much better. I got more capable. I got more confidence. When they made the suspension change, it made more sense. They got more confidence. They got a little bit quicker out of it.
Yeah, I'm gonna go and have some screwdrivers. Should you pull in? Oh, some screwdrivers, yeah. Yeah, let's do it, okay. Because that's the problem, it's too skittish, right? Compared to riding this now, this is like a walk in the park, really. But I do think that that triple motor has got the edge a little bit in terms of power. The fact that you can't brake into the corner, you lose so much. Yeah, I mean, they're even closer than I imagined, having sampled both of them now.
The way that this bike comes from the factory, it's good, but it does leave you to be like, man, I want to make some changes on the suspension because it's so rigid. The chassis is so spirited. In my 1,000 miles, 1,100 miles of it, I find this bike to have some of the most character I've ever felt riding a motorcycle. I was going crazy on the street one day. I didn't add this in the vlog. I actually cut some of it out, but there's a dude I have a rivalry with, and he pops up on his M1000. We're going up a road that's extremely windy and fast. So I'm actually turning the stick on this thing quite a bit in a corner, leaning it over 47 degrees lean angle, and I'm in the corner and he's right under me and I'm accelerating around him and I come out in front of him and I hit a pothole. I hit a pothole, full lean, full squidded out, no gear on. I hit this pothole. The bike hopped and unsettled. My foot came off the peg. I was thinking that was it for the new crispy, shiny, nice new R9. And I was thinking that was going to be it for my untattered skin. It was not. The chassis was so fucking good that it hit, boom, boom. The bike scampered, and then it gathered itself. And you see here today, there's no problems. I feel like that was all chassis. The chassis is so good on this thing that it worked out in a very, very peculiar position and a wild situation. That's what I'm saying. Aside from me feeling the road a little bit better, enjoying the roads that I've been riding on, and seeing how bumpy some of these roads that I have been riding on for years are, the chassis is doing all of that. People say, oh, the brakes, they aren't that great. They are good. They're nothing to write home about. Well, because we have all the onboard information, easily the most braking force that I've felt before has come from my R1. But I've got pads, lines on the stock brake, and I got an RCS 19. This bike feels really damn similar, and this pulls 1.5 on braking, on decel. I've gotten it on here quite a few times, and I've averaged 1.4 to 1.3. That's a whole lot of braking. GP bikes, just to give you an idea, they peak at 2 on decel G-force, but they average around 1.4, 1.5. You can't say that the brakes aren't good. They're actually really good. They do the damn thing, actually. But there's one thing that does happen is ABS interference. I have found that right around 1.4, 1.5, you do start to feel the lever pulse. You do start to feel ABS interfere. 1.3, no, not so much. run 1.3, 1.4 on imperfect road or bumpy or any kind of vibrations, you will start to feel the ABS intrude. I will pull the fuse out of it when we do go to the track, because I won't be appreciative of it removing brake force from me where I'm trying to push, because I think on this bike I'm comfortable enough. I'm gonna try to push this bike. I'm gonna try to push it really good, actually. This bike has tons of turn in. The turn in that this bike has makes you not lean the bike over too much, because sometimes if you lean it over a little bit more, it really darts in and it turns in really good that you might feel like you're coming up short. You could have went faster, and that's one thing you can't let this bike do. You can't let this bike punk you into going faster than you're really comfortable with or really feel like you need to in back roads. If you're just not leaning it over that good, just so be it. But as you can see, on the front tire, I have 0 chicken strips. I don't like that, because what that tells me is, whoa, boy, you're using a little bit too much front tire. Well, on the left side, I've got a little bit of strip on the left side, but the comfort that you have digging deep in on this motorcycle is a real good one. But the problem is you can't override it. You can override it and maybe have a legendary fall that we don't want in the streets. But I've gotten tire edge use front and back all the way to the edges. That's a first. I will tell you, that's a first for me. I do not ride my front tires that much. I definitely ride the backs a lot more than I do the fronts. So this bike encourages a little bit more lean angle from me, and I'm fine with that. It's just startling when I look at it when I'm back in the garage. Now that they've tested the V2 and the R9 head up, we get to now talk about, because there's an actual group of guys that I do feel like can ride pretty good, and they've gotten some time head to head with them and swap bikes, and both kind of confirmed and considered the same things. Ultimately, their options as what they would choose personally were different, and it was a split 50-50. One guy going R9, one guy going V2. The reasons they gave, very credible, very, very credible, but that kind of alleviates all the people that just are part of the peanut galleries online arguing against the R9, because not only does the R9 have the opposition of every other brand that is going up against, it also has the opposition of R6 dudes that swear this is the slowest thing on the planet, and it ain't. I'm not gonna walk an R6 up top with this. That's just a definitive fact. Not gonna happen. It'll be very competitive up to 130. It's gonna get blitzed after 130.
Oh, you got me. All right. Yeah, you were getting me. That was about 135. That fucker was coming around me.
Just how having farther revs with a different element of power band works. I've seen road races of guys on this bike with an R6, and they're starting in second. Huge flaw in comparing those two. That's not where you want to be. This has a complete power deficit in second gear between 4 to 6. You give an R6 that much time to accelerate, you're never going to catch it. Start in first gear around mid-range, about 5 RPMs, where this is going pretty good, and you hit it and you run it all the way to the top, you're going to get a head-up race that's pretty dope. I had a head-up race with my son that had people in comments saying, dude, he wasn't revving the R6 far enough because it was that competitive. So the fact that so many people ride in R6 corner and they just don't want anything new rivaling something that they've grown up with. I mean, the nameplate R6 as a brand has gone since 1998. And in 2021, it went away. There's no longer a new R6 model on the horizon. There were R6 race that was still available, but this thing, I get it. Like guys say, oh, this isn't as fast as the R6. Neither is the CBR 600RR. See what I'm saying? who fucking cares, right? What this does though, and what Yamaha did with this is perfect. It wins races. It will allow an average rider to feel comfortable to learn how to ride track more, learn how to ride faster. It'll make them ride the track with a little bit more comfort because there's a little less wild shit going on up top. And I like that. I like that about this bike. So the people that say the craziest shit about this bike versus an R6, like this motherfucker right here, where do you get that from? Where could you get that from? Because if you've ridden both, this is a spicy part. That's a very good part. This is a very good use of platform and engineering and a great idea from a company that wants to make something new for the customer that'll fit a space, will suffice what people are looking for on a platform. Good job, Yamaha. Kudos to you. This is what we want. This will reinvigorate super sport class, because here's what's going to happen. Accidentally, in the 44 teeth comparison, a ZX6 got caught up in the mix. Guess what happened to that ZX6?
Good, good. Come on! Ah. Well, what a great accidental test this is. Oh, got him!
Four-cylinder screamers, rev far, that's the best thing ever. It was the best thing ever until new things came along. But what Yamaha you better watch out for, and I asked the goddamn Yamaha guy when I was talking to him when they demoed the new bike, when we went over to Mach 1. We'll go all the way back to that video, but again, I cut something out. I always purposely cut something out because I want to hold something for later. I wanted to finish my bike and present an idea, a concept. I asked him, I said, hey, I want this bike, I'm getting it. But as a consumer of your product, and I buy this bike, do I have to worry about you guys coming later on down the line next year with an R9M or an R9 SP? And he said, nah, I don't think so. There's nothing else that we could think of to add to this motorcycle to make a version or a model of that. People say that Ducati, because you notice they haven't put that new V2S in competition, Moto America or World Superbike. The reason they haven't, and they're using the older one, is because they think that they're going to come with a V2R. A V2R would be gnarly for them to just pop up with and say, hey, yeah, 130 horsepower now. Again, what would Yamaha do? Give you the tune out the flat spot, make it have 123 horsepower versus 117. The way this triple makes energy, it feels amazing. It feels astonishing once you get past 6-7 grand. Make it rev to 12 grand. Seems like that's what Two Wheel Dyno Works is doing. They make it rev a little further. They clean everything up in the mid-range. They fatten it up. They give you that power, that surge, that feel that you want to get from this thing. We took a few things off of this bike, which maybe accounted for 3 pounds. Is that what Yamaha has to look forward to be in a competitive market? Some things you want to think about, right? But let's wrap this up on the road. So we've got close to maybe a gallon in reserve. Whoa. Well, damn. Okay, so 3 mile an hour difference at 6 RPM, and that's why I got this display up, because it's more definitive where exactly you are in RPM range. At 6 RPM, it used to do 94. And I'm more familiar with where it was at 6 RPMs at 6 gear because of all the time, you know, you tried to spend staying at 6 RPM on break-in. And I was always on the freeway at 6 RPM, and I always saw that number, 94, 95 miles an hour. Wow. So we went up 2 in the back. This is my first ride on this. We went up 2 in the back. This pool's really good. So I didn't plan on mashing the back road, but I'm gonna hit this one spot, one part, because I was able to do 141 miles an hour in the back road in this one spot. I know this to be the fastest spot there. So we were hitting 141, and this was 5th gear. 5th gear bounces limiter at 144, or at least it did. So we're gonna have to see now what exactly it's doing in 5th gear. And again, these are definitives that I know because you guys have seen me test it so much. What we're gonna do is we're gonna come to our stop. Let's use launch control. All right, launch control active. Not gonna go hard because tires aren't warm or nothing like that. I just wanted to see something. Oh my God. If a 520 just did that, holy shit. This mofo pulls now, wow. My braking area is coming up after this, so here we go. Whoa! It did a stoppie. Holy shit! Wow, this thing brakes hard, dude. That was the most drastic because I had planned on braking incredibly hard like that. This thing will pull the rear off the ground, no problem. And ABS, the way I braked just then was a little bit different than I always have braked. So I really braked with purpose. And she went into a stoppie. It does that when you brake aggressively in corners too. That is something that you have to change the front suspension settings for. And this is what I was telling Tico. I really wanted to wait until we went to the track to set this bike up. I do a few minor things here just to make it comfortable for me to ride in back roads, but I really want to set it up on the track. On corner entry, when you're braking hard, the tail will come around on you. I experienced a few times in a few runs in the back roads where it did get to swapping around on me. It's nothing that you should be too concerned with. Obviously, you release a little bit of pressure on the brakes and keep yourself slowing down, but it does it. It does do it. The front end being softer on the V2 helps it to not do that. Helps it to brake more. Now, just because the front end is softer doesn't mean that it isn't good. The stroke can be better. So we might soften this up and we might find that this does make such a better effort. We can do that again. Yeah. Okay, so I wonder where my peak is because it's getting into ABS. Essentially before about 1.3 to 1.4 was where you started to feel a little ABS kick in. Rolling throttle is so damn good now. Wow, this thing really accelerates now. We get it tuned and it starts accelerating more aggressively. Man, I don't know. Y'all got this game twisted about what this R9 is and can be. Y'all really got it twisted. I want to go up against the R6 again. Maybe I could, because remember, I'm blown stock. My R6 is 52 rear, down one in the front, exhaust and tune, and it's light. So I really wonder what the thing is gonna do when this thing gets tuned and airbox and all of the goods. It's a considerable difference. We're down at like $4 grand and you roll on the throttle and it pulls that fucking hard. There's a good difference, let's just say that. Look how hard it's pulling. But this is just naturally the damn bike itself. And this is what I'm talking about, being on the freeway with those boys. They got leader bikes and I did not feel outgunned. You can't do that with an R6. You're gonna downshift 5 fucking times. Wow, this thing is live as fuck now. Man, this fucking thing accelerates good. An R6 can't do this, y'all. I get it. There's things that an R6 can do. That ain't one of them. Man. Hey, this bike is biking. So after owning this thing and running 1,100 miles on it, after this break-in, it's a very similar bike from what you first got introduced to when you first ride it. This bike is just what it is, and it's gonna be what it's gonna be. And all of that encompasses fun. It's entertaining, it's fun. It's teaching me some stuff. So let's see what this is on the track, because we've had more than enough fun on the street. So with that, we're gonna end it. We're gonna give y'all 2, and we out.